I'm Erin O'Byrne and welcome to Everything EFL podcast. I'm passionate about serving teachers and I offer training for schools and institutions whose language teachers need a little refresher, a change of mindset and some super practical ideas to put into their classrooms straight away. There is no one-size-fits-all lesson plan, but you've got a friend and support system in me. I can help reduce your overwhelm, give you some teacher inspiration, and improve your work-life balance. How? With some solid advice, takeaways you can try out immediately, and some much-needed teacher love, because your well-being is important too. Are you ready to make small changes one step at a time and remember how amazing you are? Let's go! Hello, you gorgeous teacher. If you're one of my lovely regular listeners, welcome back. If you're new to Everything EFL, you are most welcome and I hope you stick around. Lots of exciting things coming up. I've got a course coming up, possibly August, September, called Methods and Mindset, and it's all about refreshing your teaching. It's about cutting down your prep time. It's about delivering other things, not just the content on your syllabus, but adding in little things to help your students and to make your planning time a little bit reduced. Bit of the lexical approach, of course. It's all in there and I'm really excited about it. And if you want the best discount for it, check out my newsletter, subscribe to it. You will get the best discount there. For all other information, you can DM me or just keep your eyes peeled on my social medias. Alright, so the biggest complaint I get from teachers is about planning time. What to plan, the time it takes, and that endless search for videos and resources. But my question to you is, are you exploiting your materials? Are you reusing the same ones in different ways? Are you using the language that the students are giving you? Or are you giving your students all the language? Are you planning less and reacting more? We generally tend to overplan anyway, don't we? You don't often get everything finished. So you can always ask your colleagues, there's tons and tons of little pronunciation activities out there. You can find a little chart with an U and a oo sound, for example, or you could just make stuff up as you go along, which is always great fun. And it's so good just to, tap into that creative part of your brain that perhaps you don't use as much anymore because, you're just so focused on getting the planning done and filling the time with A, B and C. It's actually amazingly beneficial for you just to, stop and go, oh, maybe I should try this. Most of the time students will go along with it and they'll actually, if they see you kind of reacting and going, oh, let's do this, they love it. They get quite excited along with you. There's so many little games you can play that you don't have to prep for. I know I've got a lot of listeners who are fairly new teachers or they haven't been teaching for a very long time. So, this kind of idea of reducing your prep will take a little bit more time, but I've got a lot of tips for you as well. So keep following me, join my newsletter, follow me on social media. I've always got little tips and tricks for you. Now, if you've been following my ideas or my podcast for a while, you'll know that this concept is not a new one. And you've probably heard me say it before, plan less, react more. Reuse your materials, exploit what you've already got. And I'm really curious if you've heard me say it or if you've seen a video and most importantly, have you tried it? Or, maybe you want to do all of these things, but you're just not sure how. So let's talk about some really simple things you can do. First, when I say plan less, I mean, think about the time you have. So let's say it's a 50-minute lesson, plan for 40. Why? Well, you never really get everything done anyway. It leaves a bit of time and space for questions or for expanding on certain concepts. For example, if you're looking at a text, you might want to spend even 3 minutes just asking students some questions about it, like, why is this an ing verb? Or do you remember we looked at the passive last week? Can you find any passive verbs? This is called noticing. I've talked about it many times before. There's lots of different ways you can do this. And if you want more information, listen to episode 103. It's got so many easy ideas and it could potentially transform the way you teach. Another couple of ideas following the same kind of theme is look for patterns. So can you highlight any verbs plus ing and then or highlight any present simple questions or highlight any verbs that have an object after them or something like that. If there's a couple of phrases in there like, I don't know how to do something or I want her to do something, ask your students, how would you translate that into your language? Because it's nice and actually quite useful to do those comparisons sometimes. Like I know that a lot of Spanish speakers say, I want that she does something or something like that, if I think I'm right, and in English it's, I want somebody to do something. And it's just worth taking the time just to show that difference. And, it's also your opportunity to teach them a better way to speak. Let's imagine you've got a low-level class and you've got to do something with food. Usually that's a good topic, right? Even if they're not that engaged, maybe you can ask them a question in their own language just to engage them. So let's imagine you get them in conversation and one of them tries to tell you like they love partying or something like that. Take it as like a teachable moment. Oh, do you know how they say that in English? You're a party animal. Or, I love going to parties. There's that love ing thing there that you cannot practice enough. Why is it ing? Because it's love. Oh, okay, what else do we love doing? Let's get some examples. What do you love doing? You love cooking. Oh, you love swimming. Okay. So you can just kind of go down a little avenue that you weren't planning to, but just think of it as an opportunity or, like I said, a teachable moment. Take a moment to teach something, and then the next time you look at a transcript or dialogue, you might see it again. Oh, look, love plus ing. Do you remember when we talked about that? And then what you can do is you can gradually collect these like little phrases and patterns that you highlight and you notice and you talk about, and then you could do lots of mini tasks with them again and again. And again, this doesn't take up prep time. I did it with both of my classes this week. So we did some emergent language work, which is the language that your students produce. And I'm not talking about those prescribed utterances like, if I were rich, I would buy a house. It would come from a more natural conversational kind of way. And I collected some of them. We looked on the board, we reformulated, and then I did a few mini tasks like the following. Where are your 5 phrases? Okay, create a 2-line dialogue with one of them, or create a discussion question that everyone can discuss. If your group is very low level, give them some tasks that are a bit more receptive or scaffolding so they're not doing as much creating as that because they're probably not able to. And one thing I often do is if they're doing a task like a reading or a worksheet, I'll create some questions while they're doing that. So again, I'm not using any time outside the classroom to do this. So let's go back to, for example, love ing, or a couple of those little points that you've sort of, touched upon before. You've gathered a few little phrases and structures, and then you create some question cards for them. So pretty much just what I said before, but you're doing the creative. So something like, which is correct? A, I love swim. B, I love to swimming. Or C, I love swimming. Or you could turn the language into a little quiz question, and you can just gradually collect tons and tons of them. And my students absolutely love them. They're fantastic for a 5 or 10 minute warmer. If you've got a couple of fast finishers, you can just chuck them a couple of those cards just to keep them busy. So when you've collected these cards, you can use them for games, quizzes. Just put your students in pairs or threes, give them a few cards to test each other, and then they can kind of rotate them around the classroom. And then again, make sure you put the answer somewhere like in the bottom right corner so that they can cover it with their thumb if they need to actually show the question card to their partner. I'd always encourage them to ask without showing first, so the person listening has to actually listen. Other things you can do for lower levels, you can create like sentence halves or match the questions and the answers. So again, it's more receptive. You could, read the dialogue and circle the correct phrases. So you could have something like, I went to school with bus / by bus, underline it, and then they have to choose the correct one. So that emergent spontaneous language that students come up with is great for noticing any consistent pronunciation issues as well. Reacting to that means you can leave time for pronunciation games, and the good thing is that you can just repeat them every couple of weeks or just, reuse those same ones again and again, because pronunciation is a skill. It does take time to master, and you probably know yourself, students really do enjoy them most of the time, and the more you do them, the more relaxed students will get with them. Another way of collecting and sort of using emergent language and expanding on it is to create just a sheet with chunks of language that you give your students and they use them every day. So, for example, with my beginners, we started doing the past simple. So I created a sheet called What Did You Do Yesterday? And I divided it up, and there were sections. For example, the first section was I went. So it's like I went to the park, I went to the pub, I went for a walk. Tons of phrases that they would use. I'm not introducing that many new ones, but it's definitely ones they would kind of recognise or use at some point. I went to church because I have a nun in my class. And then the next section could be something like do phrases. I did the gardening, I did the washing up, I did the laundry or something like that. And then you could just have random ones. And as the days go by and they're asking the same questions, they might do something different. For example, I went to the cinema. Oh, we didn't put that one on let's add that one to the list. So you can add more, like I went to bed at 11 o'clock. These things just sort of come up when they're trying to tell each other about their day. One of them sort of said, I sleep 11 o'clock. Brilliant. Okay, teachable moment coming up. I went to bed at blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then this could be just a really nice little way of practicing question forms and exposing them. What time did you go to bed? I went to bed at 11. What time did you go to bed? I went to bed at 10. What time did you go to bed? And you can do that kind of input flooding where you're sort of asking them the same question and you're getting them all to answer, or, pick out a few students in your class to answer. And that, again, that receptive, they're listening to that question and you're saying it with natural pronunciation. You're not saying, what time did you go to bed? It's, what time did you go to bed? So that is really, really good exposure for them as well. And you can get them to use this every lesson or every other lesson. So it's that constant repetition of those phrases, and it does take a long time for them to master, especially like if there's prepositions or articles. I went for a walk. It's not that complicated for us, but it definitely is for your students. The point is, once you've reacted by reformulating their emergent language, having a chat about pronunciation points, finding something in a dialogue to focus on, answering any questions, gone down a little unplanned but very useful road, this is all brilliant stuff. And like I said, leave time for this in your lesson plan. You can take any of the mini tasks that I mentioned, or you can go online and, look at recycling activities, or, Google mini tasks, or, just go to ChatGPT and ask it for some suggestions. But the takeaway is leave time to explore the language with your students. Have casual chats with them, either in English or your language, and see what they try and tell you, and then reformulate to make a better chunk of language. So again, I go walk. I went for a walk. I think I'm going to leave it right there. That's just food for thought. I want you to really think about this. And next time you plan a lesson, I challenge you to plan a little bit less and leave time to listen for the students. And remember to record any of that emergent language that comes up on pieces of paper or a list. You can always refer to it, and you can always use it to create little mini tasks. And if it's on little pieces of paper, you've made questions, then, you've got tons and tons of pieces of language that you can play games with and you can reuse in other lessons. So I hope you found that useful. Like I said, keep your eyes out for a course that I'm developing. It's called Methods and Mindset, and it's all about helping you take small but impactful steps to become a better teacher, but without any overwhelm or stress. We're going to go deep in every module, just focus on a couple of real useful concepts, have a look at a few things you can do, and then there'll be time to reflect and actually implement these things in your lesson planning within the workshop. You can do it on your own, or you can do it in breakout rooms, but I'll be available for feedback in the workshop as you are planning and thinking about how you're going to implement these things that you've just learned into your next lesson or lessons. It's going to be out within probably the next 6 weeks, so keep an eye out on my social media. In the meantime, if you need support, join my Breathe Easy Teacher newsletter community. It's only every couple of weeks, and it alternates with this podcast episode, so you get a little bit of teacher love and support every week from me. The newsletter will always have some kind of tip or advice or something practical you can do, but it's small enough so it's actionable and manageable. And I've had a lot of very positive feedback about my newsletter and the positive changes it's brought teachers regarding work-life balance. And that's just from a newsletter. So imagine what a course can do for you. Do you feel like your school could benefit from some workshops with me? My email address is in the show notes. And very exciting, I'm going to be developing a website very, very soon. I'm available in-house in Dublin or online globally. I'm currently working on an exciting project with a school in French Guiana. Maybe I'll tell you more about that on my socials as and when it develops. Lots of plans for this year, guys. I couldn't do it without your support and your lovely messages. I appreciate every single one that you send me. I hope you guys are okay. And as always, look after yourself, have a peaceful week, and share the love. Bye.